Hello everyone. Gregor Mendel was the first scientist to make systematic study of inheritance which involved transfer of characteristics from parents to the progeny. He was educated in the monastery, and after his education he started growing peas in the monastery itself. During his regular visits to the pea garden, he observed various differences in the pea plants. Like the height of the pea plants were different, as some were tall and some were dwarf. There were also differences between the flower color, like some were white and some were purple. There was also differences in the seeds of the pea, like some were round and yellow while some were green and wrinkled. He was very amazed after seeing these differences in the plant of the same variety of pea. Then he applied his knowledge of science and mathematics and found out why this happened. For his study, he observed two types of inheritance. The first was the monohybrid inheritance, or the inheritance which involved only the transfer of one trait or characteristic to the next generation, like the height of the plant. The second was the dihybrid inheritance, or the inheritance which involved the transfer of two traits or characteristics to next generation, like the color and the shape of the seeds. In this video, we are going to see the monohybrid inheritance, and in the next video, we are going to see the dihybrid inheritance. For tracing the inheritance of a single pair contrasting characteristic of a pea plant like tall and short stem size, Mendel crossed two pea plants of these different characteristics and noted their occurrence in the succeeding generations. Mendel took two plants, one purebred tall plant and the other was purebred short plant. Here, purebred means that the genotype will have same genes. That is, the tall plant will have both the capital T and not one capital T and small t. The short plant will have both the small t's. So, when he crossed these two plants, he observed in the first filial generation or the F1 generation, all the plants were tall. He then took two plants from the F1 generation and crossed them. He observed that the plants produced in the second filial generation or the F2 generation were tall and short in the ratio of 3:1, which means out of the four plants, 3 were tall and 1 was short. He found that the dwarfness trait which was lost in the F1 generation surprisingly showed up in the second filial generation or the F2 generation. This meant that the dwarfness trait was not lost from the parent but was suppressed in the F1 generation and re-emerged in the second generation. Mendel called these repressed trait of dwarfness as recessive trait and the expressed trait of tallness as dominant trait. And with this, Mendel showed that there are two types of trait which are dominant and recessive. Now let's understand Mendel's observation by Punnett square. He took a purebred tall plant and a purebred short plant. So its genotype is T and small t. During the reproduction process, 4 gametes are formed, 2 from either parent. The gametes formed from the first parent have genes T, and similarly, the gametes formed from the second parent will have genes small t. Now let's draw the Punnett square. It's a square which generally have the paternal gametes on the top and the maternal gametes on the left hand side, though we can put the gametes on either side. Now since we have two gametes each from the parents, we have 2 rows and 2 columns. Now let's fill the genes here. So we are writing capital T and capital T on the top and small t on the left hand side. Now we will fuse them. So when I will fuse this T with this T, it will become one capital T and a small t. Similarly, I will do with this. Capital T will fuse with this small t. So it will be capital T and small t. You can try with the other two and it will be capital T and small t, capital T and small t. So here you have seen that these are the offsprings formed in the first filial generation or the F1 generation. You can also see that the genotype of the first generation is capital T, small t, capital T, small t, and the remaining two are also capital T and small t. Now we know that the capital T is a dominant gene, so it expresses itself. Therefore, in Mendel's experiment, the first generation had all the tall plants. Now, for the second filial generation, the parental genotype will be capital T and small t. So, the gametes formed from the first parent will have capital T and small t, and similarly, the gametes formed from the second parent will have capital T and small t. Now, let's draw the Punnett square. We will again write the gametes, and since they are same, so we are going to write capital T and small t on the top, and on the left hand side also we are going to write capital T and small t. Now let's fuse them. So we are fusing it. Capital T and capital T will fuse to form capital T and capital T. Again, capital T will fuse with small t to form capital T, small t. Now this small t will fuse with this capital T to form capital T and small t, and this small t will fuse with this small t to form small t and small t. Now you can see here that the three progenies have one capital T in them, and we know capital T represents tallness gene. So we have three progenies which are tall. Now in the last square you can see that there are two recessive genes of dwarfness. So one plant will be dwarf. So we can conclude that in the second filial generation, the ratio of the tall plants to dwarf plants will be 3:1. In the observation of Mendel, there was total of 1064 plants, and he found out that out of these plants, 787 plants were tall and 277 plants were short. If we find out the ratio of 787 is to 277, it comes out to be 2.84:1, which is approximately 3:1. From the monohybrid cross, Mendel formulated the first law of inheritance or law of segregation, which stated that the characteristics or the traits of an organism is determined by internal factors, now we call them genes, which occur in pairs. Only one factor from a pair of such factors can be present in the single gamete. So, in this video, we have seen the monohybrid cross and the law of segregation. In our next video, we are going to see the dihybrid cross and the law of independent assortment.